Hi, I'm Henry. I'm a Bible student. I enjoy studying the Bible because there's always something new to learn. Let's have a word of prayer, and I'll give you an example. Dear Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for your love. Thank you for Jesus. Have your Spirit fill us as we study your word and show us what you'd have us to know. We praise you and we thank you in Jesus' dear name. Amen.
605 years before the time of Christ, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, had a dream that troubled him, but when he awoke he could not remember it. Thus God revealed the same dream and its interpretation to the prophet Daniel. There was a splendid idol with a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, midsection of brass, and legs of iron. The feet were of iron mixed with miry clay. Daniel declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, "You are that head of gold." Daniel 2:38. Thus it has been understood historically that the king represents his kingdom. The head of gold, Babylon. Chest and arms of silver, Medo-Persia. Midsection of brass, Greece. The two iron legs, Rome. The feet of iron and clay, divided Europe as it is today. Thus, since the 2nd century A.D., Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome have been understood. But as the image had two legs of iron, Rome, the Roman Empire split into two kingdoms, the Eastern and the Western Roman Empires. Likewise, after the power in Rome moved to Constantinople, a new power was established in Rome, the papacy. Thus, in one sense, the two iron legs are the pillars of church and state. But the king is also himself. When Daniel told the king, "You are that head of gold," Daniel 2:38, Daniel's words applied directly to King Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold. Special Testimonies on Education, written in 1897, states, "The historic events related in the king's dream were of consequence to him. His dynasty is depicted by the idol. The local application foreshadows the long-term application. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. In Daniel chapter 7, Daniel saw beasts of prey as the four kingdoms. Babylon as a lion with two wings, Medo-Persia as the bear with three ribs in its mouth, and Greece as a four-headed, four-winged leopard and a nondescript beast. For Rome, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit and in the midst of my body, and the vision of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know. These great beasts which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. How can that be? The kings in Babylon's dynasty are dead and gone. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome are kingdoms, not kings. But heaven's interpretation is sure. It is not the interpretation that has been understood since the 2nd century A.D. of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. It is the interpretation that has been sealed until the time of the end. See Daniel 12:4 and 9. Who are the four kings that shall arise from the earth?
I'm a Bible student. I've been studying the books of Daniel and Revelation since 1997. Daniel chapter 2, according to the King James Bible, is about the kingdoms of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. That's true, but that's not completely true. Because Daniel said to the king, "You are the head of gold." He didn't say, "Your kingdom is the head of gold." We know that the king and the kingdom can be interchanged, but if we assume that they are interchanged, then we overlook half of the vision. The meaning that was to be sealed until the time of the end, according to Daniel 12:4 and 9. Seal the book, shut the book, close the book until the time of the end. The King James translators made their translation before the book of Daniel was opened, while it was still sealed. Daniel chapter 4 is a continuation of the vision in Daniel chapter 2. But the translators applied chapter 4 exclusively to the king, and they did not mention his kingdom at all. If Daniel 2 says, "You are the head of gold," and Daniel 4 says, "You are the tree," then you would expect the interpretation to be about you. Daniel 2, the interpretation is about the kingdom. Daniel 4, the interpretation is about you, the king. There is a disconnect in those two chapters. Daniel 2 and Daniel 4 are about the kingdoms of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome, and they are about the king and his dynasty. Daniel 2 gives an overview, and Daniel 4 gives a specific length of time. The vision is for 7 times. 7 times is 7 years. But as a time can be a year, a time can be 1,000 years. So the duration of the vision of Daniel 2 is for 7,000 years. 6,000 years for sin to run its course, and the 7,000th year for the earth to rest. Then we go to the vision of Daniel 7. Daniel saw 4 beasts come from the sea. He knew that the beasts represented kingdoms, and that the sea represented multitudes and peoples. Now we know that because of Revelation 17:15. But when Daniel asked heaven for the interpretation, in Daniel 7:17, heaven said, "The 4 beasts that you saw are 4 kings that shall arise from the earth." This is clearly stating that the sea beast that Daniel saw were to be symbolic of earth kings that were to arise in the end time. Then we go to Daniel chapter 8. Daniel sees a ram with 2 horns. The King James makes this appear as though Daniel is seeing something that applies to the ancient kingdoms of Medo-Persia and Greece, the goat with the horn. Again, that was before the vision was open and the interpretation became clear. The interpretation of Daniel chapter 8 states that this is for the last end. The last end is not the beginning of the vision, just after Daniel lived, when Medo-Persia and Greece were world empires. The last end is our day, after Greece and Medo-Persia are no longer world empires. Revelation 13 explains that the land is the earth. The earth is the United States in Bible prophecy. We can confirm that because it says that the power from the earth will draw fire down from heaven. America drew fire down from heaven literally in World War II over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Back to Daniel chapter 8. The United States, having conflicts with countries that are from what was Medo-Persia, Iran. The first ram has 2 horns, George Bush II and Obama. Then comes the goat with 1 horn, the great horn, Donald Trump. That is broken. He has not been broken yet, but he is in a precarious situation. When the horn is broken on the goat, there are 4 entities of note in American politics. There's the Senate, the House of Representatives, the Supreme Court, and the executive office, which would be without a president, because Trump would be broken. Then, from the executive branch arises the little horn that waxes great. Republicanism and Protestantism became the fundamental principles of the nation, the United States of America. Protestantism follows in the steps of the papacy. By the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. I recently learned of a principle called the principle of first mention. That you study a subject from where it's first mentioned in the scriptures, and then you follow it all the way through to the book of Revelation. And the first subject that I studied this way was the judgment hour. In Revelation, it says that the hour of God's judgment has come. So I wanted to know, how long is a judgment hour? So to find out how long a judgment hour was, I had to find out how long is an hour. In Genesis chapter 1, it says, evening and morning, the first day. Genesis 1:5. So God made the evening and the morning, the first day, and we know a day has 24 literal hours. So, if I want to know the length of an hour, I would say that that's 1/24th of a day. But is that the right answer? Because if the judgment hour has come and it was only 1/24th of a day, the judgment hour would have ended ages ago. So that may not be the right answer. Look a little bit deeper. And God said to Adam in Genesis 2:17, in the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. Well, when Adam ate of the forbidden fruit, in the day that he ate, he was supposed to die. Did Adam die in the literal 24 hours that he ate of the fruit? No. Well, then a day must have more meanings than literal 24 hours. Ezekiel 4:6 tells us that a day can be a year. Did Adam die in the year that he ate of the fruit? Well, no. According to Genesis 5:5, all the days of Adam were 930 years, and he died. Well, now, Adam was to die in the day that he ate, and he died at 930 years old. So a day must be longer than 930 years in order for Adam to die in the day that he ate. As we get to the Psalms, David tells us that a day is with the Lord as 1,000 years. And Peter reaffirms that. He says a day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. So it was a millennial day that Adam died. Well, then how long is a judgment hour? We would think it was 1/24th of a day. That's around 40 years. We have to study judgment. In the writings of Moses, under the Mosaic system, the cleansing of the sanctuary or the Great Day of Atonement occurred on the 10th day of the 7th Jewish month, Leviticus 16:29-34. So the 10th day of the Jewish month, September, October, on our Gregorian calendars. We would have to ask, was the Judgment Day, Day of Atonement, all of the 24-hour period, or was it mostly the daylight hours? Is for Day of Judgment, Leviticus 23:27. In the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ, Romans 2:16. Moses sat to judge the people from the morning until the evening, Exodus 18:13. So when Moses, and he's the one that was writing about the Day of Atonement, when he judged the people, he judged them in the daylight hours. On the Day of Atonement, the high priest ministered in the sanctuary during the daylight hours, from morning till evening. All right. Well, if the judgment hours were during the daylight hours, and Jesus said, "Are there not 12 hours in the day?" John 11:9, it tells us that a judgment hour would be 1/12 of a 1,000-year day. That would be 83 years, 4 months. That is how long a judgment hour should be. Remember, Revelation 14:7 said, "Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, and the sea and the fountains of waters." Revelation 14:7. So if a judgment hour is 1/12 of 1,000 years, then the hour of judgment that came in Revelation 14:7 should last for 83 years, 4 months. How can we know if this happened or if it didn't happen? Well, the answer to that is very easy. Back in the 1800s, there was a Bible student by the name of William Miller. He studied Daniel 8:14 that said, "Unto 2,300 days, and then shall the sanctuary be cleansed." And he knew that the decree to cleanse the sanctuary was issued in 457 BC. And he knew Ezekiel 4:6 that a day with the Lord is as a year. And so he knew from Daniel 8:14 the 2,300 days were 2,300 years. So beginning at 457 BC, when the king of Persia issued his decree, he counted down. The beginning of the judgment hour was in 1843. And he preached it. He told everybody, Christ is coming in 1843. But Christ didn't come in 1843. So he went back and studied again. And he found out that, yes, the 2,300 years is right. Yes, the 457 BC start date was right. But when BC went to AD, there was no year zero. None. No year zero at all. So he found out that his 2,300 years really were only 2,299 when they ended in 1843. So he added the extra year to bring it to 1844. That was the year zero that was non-existent when it went from BC time to AD time. And so he preached to everybody, Christ is coming in 1844 on the Day of Atonement, which is October 22nd that year. Wonderful message, but Christ didn't come. Wait a minute. What was wrong? Well, he looked at it. He had thought that the cleansing of the sanctuary would be the cleansing of the world by fire at Christ's advent. That's what people believed in that day. And that belief had encouraged him to make the wrong event. Had the right day, but the wrong event. So he went back to the Bible. And in Hebrews, he found out that God built a sanctuary in heaven that wasn't built by hands. And that was what was to be cleansed. Jesus had also said that before he comes, he would judge the world and he would confess the saint's name before his Father and before the angels, so that when he came, he would have his reward with him. Now, Miller went back and told everybody Jesus wasn't supposed to come. He was supposed to cleanse the sanctuary in heaven. But unfortunately, people said, Miller, you got it wrong in 1843. You got it wrong in 1844. And now you're trying to change the event so that you didn't get it wrong. Now, a lot of people stopped following his teachings at that time because Miller was wrong twice. Well, let's check Miller and let's check Bible prophecy and let's find out what the Bible really says. Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of water. Revelation 14:7. The hour of his judgment came, according to Miller, on 22 October 1844. Okay? A judgment hour is to be 1/12 of 1,000 years. That would be 83 years, 4 months. It began October 22, 1844. Then the judgment would end February 22, 1928. Did it begin at that date and did it end at that date? The Roman Church is the church that began from Christ and his disciples. The gospel was taken to Rome, and then Rome became the premier church, and it started to run the whole show. Peter says that the judgment begins at the house of God. The house of God had moved to Rome, so the Roman Church was the house of God in 1844. The judgment hour of the dead began 22 October 1844. And as Peter said, judgment must begin at the house of God. 1 Peter 4:17. It is written of the church in Sardis, Thou hast a name that thou livest and art dead. Revelation 3:1. When did the Roman Church die? It died in 1798. And it was dead in 1844. Was it dead for an entire hour from October 22, 1844 to February 22, 1928? Yes, it was dead for the entire hour. When did it become alive again? Well, shortly after the judgment hour of the dead ended in 1928, there was a tarrying time, according to Habakkuk 2:2. The tarrying time was the time allotted for the church to be revived. Mussolini began the restoration process in February of 1929. It ran through June of that year. So by June of 1929, the dead Roman Church was alive again. But notice, during the entire judgment hour, 22 October 1844, 83 years, 4 months to February 22, 1928, the dead church was dead for the entire hour. Then came the tarrying time. Then, when the Roman Church was alive again, the Day of Atonement in 1929 was on the 14th of October. The 83 years, 4 months allotted to the living Roman Church that was alive in June of 1929 began on the Day of Atonement, the 14th of October, 1929, and the entire 83 years and 4 months ended on 14 February 2013. Well, now that means that something had to happen to the Roman Church in February, and it did. Revelation 13 says that the beast had 7 heads. The Roman Church had 7 heads during this 83-year, 4-month period. It had Pope Pius XI, Pius XII, John 23, Paul VI, John Paul I, John Paul II, and Benedict. 1 pope at a time, 7 popes, 7 heads. Then, when the judgment hour of the living ended on the 14th of February, 2013, Pope Benedict resigned. Now, the Roman Church has 2 popes, Pope Benedict the retired and Pope Francis. Now we can be sure that the time allotted for the judgment hour of the dead and the judgment hour of the living has come and gone. We are now in the final sealing time.
I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. That word duo means 2. But as the scriptures were studied, the Lord sent them duo, 2 and 2. Luke 10:1. Duo only occurs once in the text, but the text is translated 2 and 2. Looking at Revelation 13:11, duo only occurs once in the text. Could it also mean 2 and 2? In Luke 10:1, Jesus sent his disciples out 2 and 2. The Lord sent them out 2 by 2. Anna means by, duo means 2. In Revelation 13, there are 2 horns on the earth beast. And we have seen the fulfillment of prophecy as 2 and 2.
By faith, Henry Hills is standing by his understanding of Bible prophecy. Quote, "If the leading men in our conferences do not now accept the message sent them by God, and fall into line for action, the churches will suffer great loss. When the watchman, seeing the sword coming, gives the trumpet a certain sound, the people along the line will echo the warning, and all will have opportunity to make ready for the conflict. But too often the leader has stood hesitating, seeming to say, 'Let us not be in too great haste. There may be a mistake. We must be careful not to raise a false alarm.' The very hesitancy and uncertainty on his part is crying, 'Peace and safety.' Do not get excited. Be not alarmed. There is a great deal more made of this question than is demanded. This agitation will all die down. Thus, he virtually denies the message sent from God, and the warning which was designed to stir the churches fails to do its work. The trumpet of the watchman gives no certain sound, and the people do not prepare for the battle. Let the watchman beware lest, through his hesitancy and delay, souls shall be left to perish, and their blood shall be required at his hand." Close quote. Testimonies to the Church, Volume 5, page 715, paragraph 2.
Bush 2, Obama, Trump, and Biden.
And America is preparing to do that very thing by introducing a global central bank digital currency so that no one can buy or sell unless they abide by America's guidelines. President Biden issued his executive order number 14067 on March 9, 2022, to start initiating the central bank digital currency. No one will be able to buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast or his number. President Biden issued an executive order March 9, 2022, to see if it is possible to convert the US dollar into a cryptocurrency. This is in preparation of overhauling the world's financial system that is based on American dollars.
Biden signs order on cryptocurrency as its use explodes. President Biden has signed an executive order on cryptocurrency that urges the Federal Reserve to explore the possibility of creating its own digital currency.
This is an order that is essentially a starting place. But I think it is a sign, that crypto is here to stay, that regulations, will be coming.
The new FedNow program is conditioning us to become a cashless society. It is going to migrate to American central bank digital currency.
Governments around the world rush to roll out their central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Their dystopian characteristics are causing many individuals and institutions to push back. CBDCs could destabilize the entire financial system and cause it to collapse. A recent study from the US government which warns of such an outcome. It's also safe to assume that the purpose of this crypto crackdown is to get rid of any crypto companies and projects which compete with the Fed's FedNow payment system. FedNow seems to be the first step towards a full-blown digital dollar, and it will be launched in July. As the second study specifies that it's about digital currencies, including cryptocurrency. As you'll soon see, it seems the OFR is arguing that the ability for people to opt out of banking using crypto is a risk.
114 plus countries around the world are at various stages of development, with the majority of them already launching pilot programs or researching national digital currencies.
Be very, very afraid of those who are sound asleep at this moment, because when they wake up, they're going to wonder what happened.
Because we weaponize our source of power, which is the US dollar.
It is in the power of thine hand to do it. Proverbs 3:27. I saw all that would not receive the mark of the beast and of his image in their foreheads or in their hands could not buy or sell. See Revelation 13:15 through 17. In order to continue to buy and sell, everyone must receive authorization. This is symbolized as a mark in their right hand. The authorization comes from the beast. No man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. This is clearly stating that all must comply with the conditions established by the beast to be able to continue to buy and sell. Those who recognize that America's move to cryptocurrency is the mark of the beast, they will refuse it. They will be obeying God's command not to receive the mark of the beast in their hand. Revelation 13:16. But there are those that will receive it in the forehead. They will be coerced to reconsider their position and to consent to using this new monetary system because it is necessary to use American cryptocurrency in order to buy and sell. It's a matter of survival. This is what is meant by taking it in the foreheads.
See Revelation 13:16. I saw that the number 666 of the image beast was made up. Revelation 13:18. The image beast is the United States of America, and that it was the beast that changed the Sabbath. The beast is the papacy. It claimed to have the authority to change the Sabbath from Saturday, the day that Jesus said he was Lord of, to Sunday. And the image beast had followed on after and kept the Pope's and not God's Sabbath. This has not happened yet. It will happen. And all we were required to do was to give up God's Sabbath and keep the Pope's, and then we should have the mark of the beast and of his image. Word to the little block, page 19, paragraph 1. Those that are not deceived to take the new American cryptocurrency, those who persevere till the end, their final test will be the Sabbath test. All others who have the mark of the beast, who are able to continue to buy and sell, will not have the Sabbath test. They had their test. They failed their test.
The only safe course is to follow the light God permits to shine, lest by neglect it shall become darkness. Review and Herald, October 6, 1885. Prophecies of Daniel and Revelation tell us
Trump
administration is going to implement American cryptocurrency, and that those who take American cryptocurrency in their right hand or in their foreheads will be worshiping the beast by disobeying a direct command from God. We have also a more sure word of prophecy, whereunto ye do well, that ye take heed, as unto a light that shineth in a dark place, until the day dawns, and the day star arise in your hearts. 2 Peter 1:19.
The battle is raging. God's people put out the light by letting their light shine. The world will put out the light by extinguishing the knowledge of God. The struggle is coming to a head with the mark of the beast. You are determined you won't take it, but the Bible says the world is deceived by Antichrist. It does not say the world is deceived except America, or the world is deceived except Baptists, Catholics, or Zen Buddhists. The world is deceived by Antichrist. Those who become confused about the identity of Antichrist will be deceived.